I'm going to give you guys the top value plays and GPP stacks for NFL Week 4 on DraftKings, and we're starting right now. What's up, guys? Welcome to another daily fantasy sports video. If this is your first time here and you want to become a profitable DFS player and get better at betting, start now by subscribing to the channel, but don't forget to click that notification bell so you don't miss anything along the way. And if you're already a Holkamaniac, you know exactly what time it is. Smash that like button and we'll get rolling. All right, guys, we're going to start with value at the wide receiver position. And this entire week, I feel like, has been a lot of talk surrounding Terry McLaurin. His price is amazing on DraftKings, in particular at 4,500, but he did pop up on the injury report this past week. So it's interesting. We're going to have to see if that hamstring injury ends up hindering him for Sunday's matchup against the Giants. We definitely want to target this Giants and Redskins game for pace, but also these two teams just can't defend very well. So I think that McLaurin is someone who is kind of benefiting from having a primetime game last week, and his price hasn't really moved to where it should be. So definitely keep an eye on that. I think the guy that benefits the most if he is not able to go is Paul Richardson, 3,700 on DraftKings. I think he's a phenomenal play as well against the Giants, and I think that he's probably the guy that benefits probably more than Trey Quinn, but Trey Quinn is 3K as well. If we see just a condensed target share in Washington, there's a lot of value in Washington, and I think that's definitely a direction that we could go. If you want to go to another route, I think that's someone else that we could at least talk about for upside in GPPs as a pivot off of these guys, Deon Cain. So 3,200, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Oakland Raiders. I do think that he'll come at super low ownership, but he's projecting really well in my model right now. It's definitely a guy that has a ton of upside. Every time he touched the ball in the preseason, it was exciting. I do think that if you're going to really shoot for the fences and you really need some value, I think we're going to need value this week. I think that he is a guy that I could go to in GPPs in particular. At the running back position, we have to touch on a couple of these guys as well. I typically don't pay down for running back, but this is an interesting slate. We don't have Zeke. We don't have Kamara. We obviously don't have Saquon Barkley. So normally what we'd be paying up for, it's basically Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler at the very top that we're considering. So a couple guys that if you wanted to pay down a little bit that I think makes some sense from a value perspective, Wayne Gallman, 4,600. I don't necessarily think he's a free square that everyone else is kind of talking about, but he's going to be massively popular. I do think that if you need him and some salary relief, he could be a guy that could make some sense. I think that his floor is super safe at 4,600, lead running back for the Giants. Again, this Washington defense that hasn't played very well. I actually like, if you have the salary available, if you have 800 available, gets to get up to Kerryon Johnson at 5,400. It is against KC, but I do think that the involvement we've seen from Kerryon most recently is super interesting. So I think he'll be pretty heavily owned as well at that price point, but I definitely think that he's someone that could definitely work out if you're looking for a value play. All right, the last value play that we're going to talk about today is at the tight end position. We've gone this far and we still haven't talked about Seattle and Arizona. Definitely think the pace and the plays in this game is going to be extremely enticing. Will Dissly, 3,600. Arizona is a team that has been absolutely shredded by tight ends for the first 3 weeks of the season. So I think that if you did want to go to Dissly, he's going to be probably the most popular value play on the entire slate, but it's probably for good reason, honestly. So the Cardinals have actually given up 23 receptions, 348 yards, and 5 touchdowns to tight ends through the first 3 weeks. So Dissly's the guy that I'm going to be going to if I need some savings at tight end. By the way, guys, if you've ever found value in any of my videos or live streams, one of the best ways to support what I'm doing here for free is to throw me the follow over on Twitter. And if you're new to the community, I also do a ton of content exclusive only to Instagram. So if you take a few seconds and make sure you're following me over there as well, I'd really appreciate it. All right, let's talk about some stacks now. I'm actually going to go right to this Chargers game. Attacking Miami has been working out for us, but I think it's actually a really interesting situation to play Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler together. We probably won't have Melvin Gordon in this one. I could see them just totally riding Eckler again, but just the target shares is so condensed for these guys. Like normally I don't pay up for wide receivers a ton. Keenan Allen's 7,600, but now that we don't know that Mike Williams is ruled out, I just don't know where the targets are going to go. I think that against Miami, this one could get out of hand, but by the time it gets out of hand, these guys might have totaled 25 touches. I think that that's an interesting spot to kind of go after. I do think that Keenan Allen at 7,600 is still totally fine. We talked about him last week when he was 7K. Weighted opportunity rating is this metric that I really value at the wide receiver position. It takes into effect air yards. It takes into effect target share, and Keenan Allen is just destroying the rest of the league. This is why we were on Mike Evans last week as well. I do think that Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler together, though it's not necessarily a stack, I guess thought we should really touch on. I think playing to get them together is totally fine in both GPPs and tournaments. All right, my first true GPP stack for you guys today is going to be Russell Wilson to Tyler Lockett, and then you're going to bring it back with David Johnson, who I think is a really great value play at the running back position as well. We've seen DJ get a little bit more involved, but I actually am a little bit worried about this Seattle team in terms of their tackling. They actually are 27th per Pro Football Focus through the last few weeks in tackling. So I think that he's the guy that could benefit from that. They've actually really struggled to defend running backs in the passing game as well. So we just know how many plays this Cardinals team is going to run. They're going to kind of dink and dunk up the field, which Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald have been kind of the primary beneficiaries of that so far. I think it could be a nice spot for David Johnson this week. David Johnson, 6,800 is an amazing price. So I do like to go on the other side of that. Let's talk about that now. Russell Wilson, 6,100 is going to be popular. Even on the road, they have a nice team total there. They are the favorite, of course. But Russell Wilson, someone that you can argue that his efficiency would rival Mahomes, even Lamar Jackson this year. And I think that this is a spot where we're constantly going to be targeting this Arizona defense in general. So I think that that's the spot I would go. I mentioned Will Dissly. You could throw him into the stack as well. But I'm prioritizing getting at least one team with Tyler Lockett this week. I think that Tyler Lockett is a really interesting spot, right? So I think that he's played the majority of his routes in the slot. And that's just where this Arizona team has been shredded even more. So I think that going to Lockett, I think that he's at a price point where he's pretty expensive, but if you want to try and get some upside in this game, I think that he's, quietly been putting up just a massive target share, like we talked about Keenan Allen, but 30% over the last, and 12 targets in each of his last two games. Like Tyler Lockett at 6,600 on FanDuel even is just such a great value. I think that Tyler Lockett, Will Dissly, and Russell Wilson, if you want to roll it back with someone, for me, it's David Johnson. I'm going to give you guys one more stack that I think is super interesting, and it's going to come from this Baltimore team. I think a lot of people might be kind of jumping off of the Lamar Jackson train. It is Cleveland. They are at home. It's a nice total. I just think that a lot of people aren't going to pay up for quarterback this week when we do have some guys that are available for much cheaper. I think Daniel Jones is going to be extremely popular if people are trying to save at the quarterback position. But Lamar Jackson, I'm actually interested in pairing him with his boy Marquise Hollywood Brown. 5,800. They did get aggressive at pricing him up on DraftKings, but this guy has just left so many air yards on the field. So again, weighted opportunity rating, top 6. He's around guys like Odell Beckham, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, who we mentioned, Allen Robinson. So these guys are just not priced anywhere near him, with the exception of Allen Robinson. I do think that Marquise Brown to Lamar is super interesting this week if you're looking for a high upside stack. If you want to learn more about how to become a profitable daily fantasy sports player and better, start now by hitting the subscribe icon in the bottom right hand corner so you don't miss anything. Be on the lookout for all of my DFS courses for other sports. Of course, they're all on demand, completely free.